Welcome back, guys, or welcome if you're new to Come Relax and Learn. Eric here. As you can see, I've completed the installation of the Mark 7 autodrive for the Dillon 1100 tablet. And I wanted to take this time to kind of go over my thoughts and feelings about how I feel about the whole situation, whether it's good, bad, indifferent. And to be honest, I think once you install the Mark 7, it's a plus. I mean, in my case, when I go to matches, I have to do between 300 or 600 rounds, and having this auto drive helps me in that sense. Now, in order for that to happen, a couple of things need to be aware of. Once you install the Mark 7, in order for this to be an aid in your reloading process, it has to be perfectly set up. Your press has to be perfectly set up. All your dies, your priming mechanism needs to be on point. Your powder has to be perfectly set up. Your bullet drop has to be, adjusted to the right amount, seating and crimping. If it's not, it will stop your process. Then it's going to be more of a pain in the ass because now you're working with an automated system. It does help, but to be honest, guys, it needs to be perfectly set up, and it can be a pain in the ass to do so. A couple of things of note: when I installed the switch sense, there was cables around here trying to set it up. I ran it by mistake, and the cables got caught up on the belt. And if you can tell, they pulled out and they broke. So now I had to order new sensors, the new cable assembly for the sensor. It's coming on the mail today, but that's something to keep in mind. Setting up the bullet sense was a major pain. Not just the installation, you have to remove the screw here, install this perfectly, and you have to determine whether you're going to use the bullet sense in section number 7, section number 8. Section number 8 is if you're sitting and crimping because you have a powder check. If you don't have a powder check, then you can do it in station 7, which comes after the powder drop, before the seating. Now you have to adjust the sensor on the primer tube. That's where you would put the sensor and the mirror. Now in my case, I had to remove all these things, and I had to remove the prime time. So that was quite an involved process. So as you remove the prime time, in my case, you have to come over here, and there's a couple of bolts back there that you have to remove. They're like back here, and then you have to pull this out, and it just became an entirely involved process. Remove the spring, then you have to slip this the mirror here, and of course when I did it, I slipped it. It can only go one way, but I put it the wrong way, and see this excess over here in the mirror, I had it facing up, and the sleeve here has to go the other way. So as I was trying to set up the bullets, it wouldn't stop the process if a bullet wasn't there. So I had to play with it for a while, quite frustrating, until I realized that this was upside down. So I fix it, because what happens with the bullet sensor, let me show you over here. What happens when the bullet sense is, it's supposed to be that if there's a bullet, no issues. If there is no bullet, it's supposed to stop the case, because the beam of comes from the bullet sense, bounces to the mirror, and it bounces right back. And if it detects the bullet, usually that beam bounces right about here. If it detects that there is a bullet, then it keeps going. If the beam comes across and is able to make contact with the receiver back here, then it stops the process. Okay? If there's a bullet sideways, if there's a sideways bullet, the beam comes, hits the mirror, and the beam is supposed to go over and stop the press. Sometimes it hits the top of the sideways bullet and it assumes that it's a bullet and continues, therefore crushing. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, when you're loading for major like I am, the case is pretty full with powder, and the bullet sits pretty high. If it's upside down, it sits pretty high. So when the beam comes across, when the beam comes across, it's going to detect that bullet, but it's going to be sitting pretty high up, such like this. So it's going to probably get confused and think that there is a normal sitting bullet. If this was regular 9mm, then this bullet would sit low just like this, and the beam would probably go over and stop. Hopefully what I just explained makes sense. So something else I got was the remote stop, and this is a pretty good accessory, because as you're watching the press, in my case, all I have to do is look at this camera, and that tells me if there's a primer underneath. So as I look, well, this is going by itself. I'm looking, yes, there's a bullet. There's a primer. So those are the two things. If there's not a bullet, sometimes the machine stops. All I gotta do is clear it and continue. If there's no primer, I can just stop, and it's pretty reactive. It'll stop right away. So would I recommend the Mark 7? Yes, of course. But I'm gonna be patient in setting it up, and your press has to be on point. And because it runs, before you know it, you're doing, 400 or 500 cases. Even if you have it at the lowest setting, 900 rounds per hour, as long as you have primers, bullets, and cases, this thing will eat up all those components. So the press will get dirtier and dirtier faster. So you do have to constantly monitor, for example, under the shell plate, check the tension, primer slide. You have to check, in my case, I have to check inside the crimping sleeve, because it gets dirty and it tends to stick. I have to constantly be cleaning the hold down die here, because it can get sticky. And also that funnel, it's one of the culprits in the sticking, because as you run it, you can hear the clunk. See how it gets dirty and stuff. But so yeah, there's a few things that you have to constantly clean to keep it running the way you want to. But as long as you get used to that, as long as you're paying attention to everything, is the way to go, and it does make your life a little easier. So yeah, I do recommend it, but keep in mind that it's an automated system. It's got its sensors to help make your life a little easier, but as usual and as always, this is mechanical things can break and can make mistakes. So yeah, it's worth it, but yeah, you gotta be smart about it. That's all I wanted to say about this, guys. It's been a great addition to my press, but yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. I appreciate your time. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you can, and I will see you on the next one.